super excited to see how this plays.
All right, so I wanted to kind of get an idea of what it all does, and maybe we could go through some of it. I've decided I'm going to do a very kind of surface level tour of some of the features. And so I'm going to be kind of exploring some of this along with you all. So please forgive any of the mistakes I might make. The microcosm is a looper. We have the ability to either put the loop before all the effects so that you can change what effects are applied to it while keeping the same loop material kind of being fed into it, or you can loop afterwards. And so what I want to do is just, I think I'm going to put everything before the effects so that we can kind of play around and maybe do a little overdubbing and stuff like that. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the phrase looper right here, and it's going to blink, and then you can move it around to do these different functions, which we probably won't get into. But we're going to go to pre-effects. You click that. That makes it a stronger light. We know it's ready to go, and then there we go. So now what's happening is all of the guitar that I'll put into this, and I'll be playing guitar today, we'll just sample a loop, and then it will apply the effect afterwards so we can apply the different banks. So the phrase looper only has about 60 seconds of actual looping on it. So this tells us right away that this is not like your infinity looper or any of your dittos or any of your kind of loopers that are going to have longer form. This is really meant for a textural kind of exploration. So what we have here is, just a real quick, is you have some basic functions that I think are in some ways self-explanatory, but then also need some explanation. But you have the activity, which this is going to be the amount of the effect as it's going to be applied. The instructions say it affects the density of effects. And then if you turn it clockwise, you have a more complex sound, whereas if you do counterclockwise, it lessens the amount of effects, or the density of effect. Right here, the repeats, it determines the frequency at which they occur. So there's a kind of distinction made between the density of the effect, how complex it is, versus how often it might affect the signal that you are providing it. And they're supposed to kind of work in tandem with one another. So this is something that you want to kind of have these two things be interacting with one another. So this kind of shapes the effect that it brings. If you have your square or your pulse, you have sawteeth and triangle, etc. Then you have the filter, which is this is just a low pass filter, which all the way down will completely have no effect because it's filtering out all the effect. Then you'll be adding your lower register frequencies all the way up to the full range. The mix is a dry wet mix, fully to the clockwise. It is fully wet, meaning that the effect is fully applied. You don't hear any of the actual signal coming through, coming from your guitar. And then counterclockwise, you're going to have an entirely dry signal, which means that only the incoming signal will be audible. There'll be no effect actually put on it. The time here, and this is going to be a little bit complicated, but this pedal uses a lot of delay in all of its different effects. So from all the way to the left, you can choose to have a subdivision, which is basically quantized. You have a fourth beat, a half beat. You have twice, 4 times, and then I don't think there's actually any 8 times there. I don't know why that's there. As far as I understand, it's just 4 times. But it also has to do with how long it takes for the effect to take hold. So a delay, sometimes you have a delay that comes in right away, that almost has that kind of rockabilly sound to it, versus a delay taking many seconds to kind of kick in. If you go over to tempo, then this is just a smoother, basically it's not locked into any one particular 4 times, half, quarter, whatever, but rather it it's not going to be quantized. It's going to be a smooth gradation from your longer to your shorter timings for your effects. We've discussed repeats. Over here we have space. This is a reverb that gets added to or subtracted from your signal, and then the loop level is the volume at which, or the presence of the loop after you have. I'm just going to put this all the way up for the sake of this. I'm going to go ahead and just put this at noon. The filter is going to be full on. I'm going to stick right here with a saw wave or a triangle wave rather. And activity, let's go about 2 o'clock. Time, let's go all the way up, so we want it to see what it sounds like immediately, and we can play around with that later. Repeats, let's go around 2 o'clock. Space, let's just do 9 o'clock. Loop level all the way through. And now, we'll come over here to the presets. There's like 11 different presets, each having 4 sub kind of sub presets. So this is arpeggiation. As you scroll through it, then that's the next version. There's 4 versions of that effect. Then you go up to interrupt, 4 versions of that. Blocks, 4 versions of that. Then up to the next group. And then of course, in the end, we also have some presets that you're allowed to. You have 16 presets that you're allowed to basically put in what you want. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I think I'm just going to stick with the basic effects that they provided for us. Let's just go ahead and get a loop started. I'm going to add a little bit of just a really simple, plucky loop here. And also know that so the only thing that is being applied to this is this effect here. There's no other effect. I don't have any reverb or any other thing that is affecting the signal, just so we can get a really good idea of what is actually going on. So just thinking about the 4 different categories of effects. We have micro loop, granules, glitch, and multi-delay. Hologram tells us that the micro loop effect are layers of short loops played back at various speeds. They combine to form new rhythmic phrases and tonal colors. The granules effect are fragments of sound to create giant atmospheres and subtle textural effects. For glitch, real-time arrangements of your incoming signal play back at random and controlled intervals. For multi-delay, a delay line with selectable numbers of taps create wide variety of rhythmic and textural effects. So I'm not really sure what these all mean quite yet, but I'm sure we can kind of figure that out. We're going to start off with the arpeggiation, or arp, which is what we're hearing now. So this is arp, and each one of these is a different version of arp. So the first one is basic arpeggios A. It's basic arpeggios created out of the most recent samples of your playing. Let's see how some of these affect. B is arpeggios. Include various playback speeds resulting in pitch shift pattern. C, each sample in the arpeggio is assigned a random filter value. It's very cool. And the last one introduces bit crushing to the arpeggios for a complex sound. Next, we have interrupt. Glitches and rearranged version of your playing interrupt live signal. B, interruptions include various pitch shifted samples. C, interruptions include filter sweeps and delay. Last one introduces bit crushing and more drastic sample manipulations. Next one we have is blocks. Rearranges your playing and adds bursts of sequenced runs of recent notes. B, rearranges and pitch shifts incoming signal. C is filtered samples overlap and fade out, resulting in a softer, less angular glitch sound. And the last one for blocks is D, rearranges the incoming signal using pitch shifts and bit crushing. I really like that. Next we have glide. Glide begins with it's almost like seems to be like a phase that's between half and normal speed. Between double and half speed. C is going to be glides between normal speed and double speed. Is going to be overlapping samples glide in both directions at the same time. For sequence, A has live samples that are filtered and shuffled into random rhythms. The activity knob introduces various filter variations. Two, sequence samples alternate between normal and half-speed playback. The activity knob determines bounce between two playback speeds. A sustainer layer is introduced when the knob is fully clockwise, allowing for soft pads to sit under the sequence. C is overlapping layers of samples with filter sweeps. I really love how orchestral it makes its almost sound. And next we have interlocking layers of rhythmic samples and bit crushing. The activity adds layers of rhythmic elements. Bit crush suboctave samples are introduced when the knob is fully clockwise. So that filters out some of those higher octaves. Mosaic is really beautiful. Micro loops play back at normal and double speed for octave up harmonies. Loops play back at normal and half speed for an effect 1 octave below your input. That's for B. C, all loops are played back at double speed. And for D, loops play back at half, normal, double, and quad speed. Sounds range from 1 octave below your input to 2 octaves higher. The granules, you begin with A, short diffused effect created from stretching overlapping samples. B, many simultaneous randomized grains create diffused textural effects. C, a mixture of normal speed and double speed grains creates a diffused texture. And D, a mixture of normal speed and half speed grains creates a diffused texture. This is much more hazy. Now going to tunnel, A, the drone sample length compresses and lengthens. B, sub-octave drone with filter sweeps. C, drone samples have resonant bypass filters. D, envelope triggered compressing and lengthening of drone sample length. So for strum, for A, we have repeats the most recent tone continuously. B, many copies of the most recent note on set overlap to create phasing effects. Cascading chains of recent note onsets. That's for C. For D, cascading chains of recent note onsets and double speed grains. So now we go with multi-delay. For patterns, this is really just, I think, basically a delay. So your first one is a very classic linear delay, it says. B, pattern 2. These are just various patterns that it's giving us, preset patterns. C, and 4, or D. So multi-delay it's really just going to be your delay, a soft delay, and then warps. For A, you're going to have an envelope-controlled filter on each tap delay. B, you have a resonant bandpass filter on each delay tap. Adds pitch shifting delays to the taps. And last is delay taps crossfade with double speed grains. Now, one thing I should mention as well is that if you were to push this main selector down, all of these have secondary effects. Modulation frequency, resonance, effect volume, modulation depth, reverb time, fade time. And these are all features that might be best explored elsewhere in another video or on your own. But I just wanted to give you a sense of the kinds of sounds and the crazy amount of variation that this pedal gives you, so that it's not just about the infinite space of a reverb pedal, but about the many different ways that you can take your signal, chop it up, and give it a different kind of beauty and texture that you wouldn't find from just putting a bunch of pedals together, because each effect is so integrated with the other. I mean, in some ways, I really feel that I could get at some of these kinds of effects by combining, let's say, Montreal Assembly Count to 5, The Particle by Red Panda, and The Afterneath by Earthquaker Devices. Those three in a chain, I feel, does begin to approach some of these things together. But here we have it all centralized into one really amazing pedal that I'm really excited to get into. And I suppose what I'll do is I'll play us out a little bit. Thanks for watching.